Hello, my friends. Revenge is a concept deeply ingrained in human nature. When we are hurt, betrayed, or wronged, our initial reaction is often to retaliate, to make the other person feel the same pain they inflicted upon us. We equate revenge with justice, believing that by getting even, we will somehow find closure, satisfaction, or relief. But if we take a step back and look at the true cost of revenge, we realize that it rarely brings the peace we seek. Instead of healing, it often prolongs our pain, keeping us chained to the very people and situations we are trying to move beyond. The idea of an eye for an eye may feel justified in the moment, but in the long run, it blinds us to our own potential for growth and transformation. True revenge is not about destruction, it's about evolution. The best way to respond to pain is not by lowering yourself to the level of those who hurt you, but by rising so high that their actions no longer affect you. When we redefine revenge, we take back control. We shift from a mindset of retaliation to one of self-empowerment. Instead of focusing on making them suffer, we focus on making ourselves better. Instead of wasting our energy plotting their downfall, we invest that energy into building our own success, happiness, and inner peace. This doesn't mean we ignore the hurt or pretend it didn't happen. It means we refuse to let it dictate our future. The most powerful response to those who hurt you is to show them that they did not break you. Nothing frustrates someone more than realizing that their actions failed to destroy your spirit. They wanted to see you fail, to see you stuck in anger, bitterness, or self-destruction. But when you choose to rise, to become stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled, you rob them of the satisfaction they seek. Real revenge is when you become so focused on your growth that they become irrelevant. When you stop reacting, stop engaging, and stop allowing their negativity to take up space in your heart, you win. However, rising above pain is not easy. It requires emotional discipline, self-awareness, and a commitment to healing. It means confronting the pain rather than suppressing it, allowing yourself to feel it fully, and then using it as fuel for your transformation. It means setting boundaries, refusing to entertain toxic cycles, and committing to self-improvement. Redefining revenge requires us to ask ourselves a hard question. Do we want to stay prisoners of our past, or do we want to build a future so fulfilling that the past loses its grip on us? The answer determines whether we stay stuck or break free. One of the most liberating realizations is that revenge is not something we take, it's something we live. The most successful people in the world didn't get to where they are by getting even. They got there by getting better. They took every insult, every rejection, every betrayal, and turned it into motivation. They let their success speak for itself. They refused to let pain harden them or turn them into someone they were not. Instead, they use it as a stepping stone to something greater. When we redefine revenge in this way, we stop looking outward for validation and start looking inward for transformation. At the end of the day, the best revenge is living a life so whole, so joyful, and so meaningful that the people who hurt you become just a footnote in your story. It's when you no longer need them to see your success because you are too busy enjoying it. It's when you wake up in the morning feeling free, knowing that you didn't just survive, you thrived. That is true power. That is real revenge, and that is the only kind worth having. Pain is an inevitable part of life. No matter how careful we are, how kind we try to be, or how much we protect ourselves, we will experience pain in some form, whether it's heartbreak, betrayal, failure, or loss. And when pain comes, our first instinct is often to resist it, to run from it, or to drown it out with distractions. We see pain as an enemy, something that disrupts our peace and happiness. But what if we saw it differently? What if instead of viewing pain as something that breaks us, we saw it as something that builds us? Pain, when embraced with the right mindset, can be the most powerful catalyst for growth, transformation, and success. It has the ability to push us beyond our limits, to awaken strength we never knew we had, and to shape us into the person we were always meant to be. Every great success story is rooted in some form of pain. Think about the most inspiring people in the world: leaders, artists, entrepreneurs, survivors. Their greatness didn't come from comfort. It came from struggle. It came from moments when they were knocked down so hard they didn't know if they could ever get back up. But instead of allowing pain to define them, they used it as fuel. They allowed their setbacks to teach them, to refine them, and to push them forward. The truth is, pain introduces us to our deepest strength. We don't truly know what we're capable of until we're put in a situation where we have no choice but to fight, to rise, and to overcome. Pain forces us to grow in ways that comfort never could. But using pain as a catalyst requires a shift in perspective. Most people get stuck in their pain, reliving it over and over, allowing it to consume them. They become prisoners of their past, trapped in resentment, anger, or self-doubt. They let pain define them instead of propel them. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck is not the amount of pain they experience, it's what they do with it. Do they let it make them bitter, or do they let it make them better? Do they allow it to close their heart, or do they allow it to open their eyes? Pain in itself doesn't transform us. It's what we choose to do with it that changes everything. One of the most powerful ways to use pain as a catalyst is to find meaning in it. When we go through something painful, we often ask, why me? But a better question is, what can this teach me? Every painful experience carries a lesson, an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to become wiser. Sometimes pain teaches us resilience. Sometimes it teaches us the importance of self-love. Sometimes it forces us to let go of what no longer serves us. When we look for meaning in our pain, we stop seeing it as pointless suffering and start seeing it as a necessary part of our journey. This shift in mindset allows us to transform our wounds into wisdom, our struggles into strength, and our setbacks into comeback. Another way pain fuels transformation is by forcing us to change. Pain is often life's way of telling us that something needs to shift. Maybe we've been settling for less than we deserve. Maybe we've been ignoring our true potential. Maybe we've been holding on to something that is no longer meant for us. Pain shakes us awake. It makes us uncomfortable enough to move, to evolve, to step into a new version of ourselves. The hardest moments in life often lead to the biggest breakthroughs if we allow them to. The discomfort of pain pushes us to take risks, to make bold decisions, and to finally step into the life we were meant to live. At the end of the day, pain is not the enemy. Staying stuck in it is. The most powerful people are not those who have never been hurt, but those who have been hurt deeply and still chose to rise. They took their pain and turned it into purpose. They allowed it to mold them into stronger, wiser, and more compassionate individuals. So the next time you find yourself in pain, remember this: it is not here to destroy you. It is here to transform you. Let it fuel you. Let it shape you. Let it be the fire that forges you into someone unstoppable. Every single one of us carries a story. One filled with triumphs, heartbreaks, mistakes, victories, and lessons. But too often, we let others define our story for us. We allow the opinions of people who don't truly know us, the pain of past experiences, and the fear of judgment to dictate how we see ourselves. We shrink, we hide, we edit parts of our lives to make them more acceptable, more palatable to the world. But here's the truth: you cannot fully step into your power until you take ownership of your story, every part of it, not just the good, not just the polished moments, but the messy, painful, and imperfect ones too, because your story is not something to be ashamed of. It is the foundation of your strength. Owning your story means accepting every chapter of your life, even the ones you wish you could erase. It means looking at your past not with regret, but with understanding. Every experience you have gone through, every failure, every heartbreak, every moment of doubt, it all shapes you into who you are today. But you cannot fully embrace your growth if you are still running from your past. True strength comes when you can say, this happened to me, but it does not define me. I made mistakes, but they do not make me unworthy. I have struggled, but I am not broken. When you own your story, you take away its power to control you. Instead of being weighed down by it, you learn to stand on top of it. The reason so many people struggle to own their story is because they are afraid. Afraid of judgment, afraid of rejection, afraid that if they are truly seen for who they are, they will not be enough. But the irony is, the more we try to hide parts of ourselves, the more disconnected we become from others, from our purpose, from our own sense of self. True connection, true fulfillment comes when we have the courage to be fully seen, when we stop pretending, when we stop filtering our truth to fit into a version of ourselves that pleases others. The moment you decide to own your story, you stop living for external validation and start living for yourself. One of the most liberating things about owning your story is that it frees you from shame. Shame thrives in secrecy. It feeds on the things we try to hide. But the moment you say, this is me, this is what I've been through, this is what I've learned, shame loses its grip. Instead of being something that holds you back, your story becomes something that empowers you. And more than that, it empowers others. Because when you have the courage to own your story, you give others permission to own theirs too. You become a light for someone who is still trapped in their own self-doubt, their own fear of being seen. Your authenticity becomes an invitation for others to step into their own truth. Owning your story doesn't mean you stay stuck in it. It doesn't mean you let your past define your future. It means you acknowledge it, you learn from it, and you use it to propel you forward. You take responsibility for your healing, your growth, and your future. You stop waiting for someone else to fix you, to save you, to give you permission to move forward. You realize that your power lies in your own hands. The past may have shaped you, but it does not have to control you. The moment you take full ownership of your life, you step out of the role of a victim and into the role of a creator. You realize that you are not just a character in your story, you are the author. At the end of the day, owning your story is an act of self-love. It is choosing to honor every part of who you are unapologetically. It is refusing to let the opinions of others dictate your worth. It is embracing your imperfections, your struggles, your journey, and recognizing that they are all part of what makes you powerful. So stand tall in your truth, speak your story with courage, let go of shame, of fear, of the need to be perfect, because the most powerful version of you is not the one who hides. It's the one who fully embraces every part of who you are. And when you do that, nothing and no one can take that power away from you. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. We are taught to see it as weakness, as something to be avoided, hidden, or masked. We believe that to be strong, we must be guarded, that to be respected, we must never show cracks. Society glorifies toughness, independence, and emotional detachment, making us feel as if admitting our struggles or exposing our true emotions is a sign of failure. But the truth is, vulnerability is not weakness, it is courage in its rawest form. It takes immense strength to stand in our truth, to expose our fears, to admit when we are struggling, and to show up as our authentic selves in a world that constantly tells us to wear a mask. When we embrace vulnerability, we open the door to real connection, growth, and transformation. At its core, vulnerability is about being real. It's about stripping away the layers of pretense and perfectionism and allowing ourselves to be fully seen. We all crave deep connections, whether in friendships, relationships, or even within ourselves. But true connection cannot exist without vulnerability. We can't form meaningful relationships if we are constantly hiding parts of ourselves, afraid of being judged or rejected. The irony is that the very thing we fear, being seen for who we truly are, is what actually allows people to love and accept us. The more we let our guard down, the more we create space for genuine relationships, ones built on trust, authenticity, and mutual understanding. When we embrace vulnerability, we stop pretending and start living from a place of truth. However, vulnerability is not just about being open with others. It's about being honest with ourselves. How often do we suppress our emotions, deny our struggles, or convince ourselves that we are fine when we are far from it? We fear admitting our pain because we think it makes us weak, but in reality, it is only when we acknowledge our pain that we can begin to heal. Suppressing emotions doesn't make them disappear. It only buries them deeper where they silently shape our actions, decisions, and relationships. When we embrace vulnerability, we give ourselves permission to feel, to grieve, to be human, and in doing so, we allow healing to take place. One of the greatest fears surrounding vulnerability is the fear of failure. We hesitate to take risks, to chase dreams, to put ourselves out there because we fear rejection or disappointment. But vulnerability is the birthplace of every great achievement. Every artist who has ever shared their work, every entrepreneur who has built something from nothing, every leader who has taken a bold stand. None of them did so without first embracing vulnerability. They risked failure, criticism, and uncertainty, but they showed up anyway. If we want to live fully, we must be willing to take those same risks. We must be willing to step into the unknown, knowing that we might fall, but trusting that we will rise. Another important aspect of vulnerability is self-compassion. We are often our own harshest critics, holding ourselves to impossible standards of perfection. We believe we must always have it together, always be strong, always succeed. But when we embrace vulnerability, we learn to extend kindness to ourselves. We learn that it's okay to struggle, that it's okay to ask for help, that our worth is not defined by our achievements or failures. Self-compassion allows us to embrace our imperfections without shame. It teaches us that we don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love, happiness, and success. When we treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we give to others, we create a foundation of self-acceptance that allows us to move through life with greater confidence and resilience. At the end of the day, vulnerability is the key to a meaningful life. It is what allows us to love deeply, to create fearlessly, to heal fully, and to live authentically. It is not a sign of weakness, but of strength, because it takes immense bravery to be real in a world that often pressures us to be anything but. So, embrace your vulnerability. Speak your truth, take the risk, let yourself be seen, because the more you allow yourself to be vulnerable, the more you step into your true power. The kind of power that is not found in perfection, but in the courage to be exactly who you are. Self-worth is the foundation of everything we do, yet it is one of the most fragile and easily influenced aspects of our lives. From an early age, we are taught to measure our worth based on external factors: our achievements, our appearance, the approval of others, and the roles we play in society. We chase validation, believing that if we can just be successful enough, attractive enough, or likable enough, we will finally feel worthy. But the truth is, self-worth is not something that can be given to us by the world. It is something we must claim for ourselves. It is an internal state of knowing that we are valuable, not because of what we do or what we have, but simply because we exist. When we truly understand our worth, we stop seeking permission to take up space, to follow our dreams, and to be who we are. We move through life with confidence, knowing that we are enough exactly as we are. However, one of the biggest obstacles to self-worth is comparison. We live in a world that constantly encourages us to measure ourselves against others, whether it's on social media, in our careers, or in our relationships. We see someone who seems to have it all together, and suddenly we feel small. We convince ourselves that we are not successful enough, not attractive enough, not worthy enough. But comparison is a trap. It blinds us to our own unique strengths and gifts, making us believe that our worth is dependent on how we measure up to others. True self-worth comes when we stop looking outward for validation and start looking inward for acceptance. When we embrace our individuality and recognize that our value is not diminished by someone else's success, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of self-doubt. Self-worth also determines how we allow ourselves to be treated. When we do not believe we are worthy, we settle for less. Less love, less respect, less happiness. We tolerate toxic relationships, accept less than we deserve in our careers, and silence our own needs in order to please others. But when we know our worth, we no longer accept crumbs. We set boundaries. We walk away from situations that do not honor us. We surround ourselves with people who respect, uplift, and appreciate us. Knowing our worth doesn't mean we become arrogant or entitled. It means we stop compromising ourselves for the sake of being accepted. It means we recognize that we are deserving of love, respect, and fulfillment simply because we are human. One of the most powerful transformations that comes with self-worth is the ability to stop seeking external validation. So many of us live in fear of what others think, constantly molding ourselves to fit expectations that were never meant for us. We chase approval, fearing that if we disappoint others, we will lose our value. But self-worth means freeing ourselves from the opinions of others. It means understanding that our value does not decrease just because someone fails to see it. When we own our worth, we stop waiting for permission to be ourselves. We stop needing constant reassurance. We trust in our own decisions, in our own voice, in our own path. And that kind of freedom is life-changing. Cultivating self-worth is not always easy, especially when we have spent years internalizing negative beliefs about ourselves. It requires unlearning the idea that we have to earn our worth through accomplishments or perfection. It requires letting go of the toxic narratives that tell us we are not enough. Building self-worth is a daily practice. It is choosing again and again to see ourselves with kindness instead of criticism. It is practicing self-compassion, allowing ourselves to make mistakes without punishing ourselves for them. It is reminding ourselves that we are not defined by our failures, by the opinions of others, or by the things we cannot control. It is an ongoing journey, but the more we commit to it, the stronger and more unshakable our sense of worth becomes. At the end of the day, self-worth is the most powerful thing we can possess. It affects every choice we make, every relationship we build, and every dream we chase. It determines how we show up in the world, whether we play small or step fully into our potential. When we know our worth, we stop settling. We stop apologizing for who we are. We stop living in fear. We embrace our power, our voice, our purpose. And when we do that, we don't just change our own lives, we inspire others to do the same. Because when one person stands confidently in their worth, they give others permission to do the same. And that is where true transformation begins. When we experience deep hurt, betrayal, or disappointment, it's easy to hold on to bitterness. It feels justified. It feels like a form of self-protection, a shield that keeps us from being hurt again. But what we don't realize is that bitterness is a silent thief. It robs us of our joy, our energy, and our ability to move forward. It keeps us stuck in the past, replaying painful moments over and over, as if by holding on to resentment, we can somehow change what happened. But the truth is, no amount of bitterness will rewrite the past. The only way to truly win over those who have wronged us is not by dwelling in anger, but by choosing success instead. Real success is not just about achievements. It's about rising above, refusing to let pain turn us into someone we are not, and proving to ourselves that we are stronger than what tried to break us. Choosing success over bitterness doesn't mean denying our pain. It doesn't mean pretending that what happened didn't hurt. In fact, acknowledging our pain is the first step toward healing, but the key is to not let that pain become our identity. Many people get so consumed by resentment that they allow it to define them. They become trapped in a cycle of anger and negativity, unable to move forward because they are too busy looking backward. But holding on to bitterness doesn't punish those who hurt us. It only punishes us. It keeps us mentally and emotionally tied to the very people and situations we want to move on from. When we choose to focus on our own success instead, we reclaim our power. We take back control of our story and decide that our future will not be dictated by our past.